All right, so welcome to the 503 for the Fans podcast. It's been a long time, and my name's Noah Patterson, and this is Cal, my new co-host. Something different from last year, and I'm ready to get started. It's been kind of a hectic past couple weeks trying to get on this show with him. I've had some technical difficulties, but we're here, and I'm excited to be here. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. A lot of preseason reactions we're going to go through, and it's gonna be a fun one, and I'm looking forward to season. I'm going to the game on opening night. I'm really excited, and well, let's get this started. First off, Cal, let's have you introduce yourself a little bit. Introduce yourself to the fans and kind of give yourself why you're a Blazer fan, and go from there. Yeah.
Yeah, my name's Cal. I live in Chicago, but been a Blazers fan since around 2013, 2014. My favorite player, I'm a big Cal basketball fan, so my favorite player at that time was Allen Crabbe. So when he got drafted by the Blazers, didn't really have an NBA team, so started following them, and then that was the year that Dame had the crazy shot against the Rockets in the playoffs, and been a fan ever since.
Yeah, I mean that that's awesome. I mean, Alan Crab's a heck of a pull. Funny enough, when I was in like in eighth grade, or maybe freshman year of high school, I went to the Nike employee store, which is in Portland, and I ran into him and met him. So that's funny. I mean that's for someone like that to become your favorite player and be the reason why you're a Portland Trailblazer fan is kind of funny. So,
You can't beat that
um,
Dame shot as your first playoff moment.
no. I mean, did you see the highlight of the Alan Crab? Like I forget to the song, but someone put like an indie song behind like Alan Crab Portland highlights.
I'll have to look for that because
No,
I'm not.
I posted it on my account. You gotta look through it. I mean, I
Okay, yeah,
forget the song, but it's hilarious.
that's fine.
Anyways, the first topic we want to talk about is, I mean, what's your initial expectations of this roster, and what's your initial, thoughts of what you expect from this team this year? You can go first if you want.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I don't think the expectations are super high for in terms of, win losses for the entire season, but I think I'm more interested in individual growth for each of the players. I think we have a lot of young guys that this is a season that we need to see them take a step forward. I think Scoot, Shaden when he's back healthy, you want to see Denny continue to take the next step. So I think in terms of the season, I just want to keep seeing guys get better individually.
I mean, that's a good answer. I mean, I think overall that's the same. I mean, I don't have too many expectations. I'm always up for surprises, and somehow Portland jumps out to some like crazy start, and but at the end of the day, like this draft class coming up is probably one of the best draft classes in my remembrance. I mean, it's really deep, and there's a lot of star-studded guys that could be there for Portland. So someone commented on one of my tweets earlier, like a couple of days ago, when I was talking about the Blazers, and he said, I feel like they can be competitive. I think Portland could be competitive, but that's all up to ownership and this front office and how much they want us to be competitive. I think Anthony kind of summed it up last year. I mean, during his exit interviews, like um, it's clear with Anthony he's tired of sitting out. Healthy games, and I feel like we're going to see more of that. And I feel bad for Anthony, and that's something we'll talk about in a little bit. But just I was just trying to make a point that I do think there's going to be a lot of healthy sits on this roster. I do think we're going to have a really active trade deadline, and my overall expectation is individual growth, like you said. I really want to see something from Scoot. I've tweeted about this a lot, and I'm not scared to say stuff about Scoot because I mean, at the end of the day, he is supposed to be a generational prospect, someone that was up in the line with Wemby as that number one pick, and so he does have a lot of expectations. And I do think my number one thing I've tweeted a lot about Scoot is you know the whole Dame saga just multiplied his expectations even more. And if I really Scoot's the number one player I want to see the most out of anyone on this roster. I mean, he's the deciding factor of if Portland's going to return to a playoff team in a couple years. And I think the number one thing I do want to see out of this roster is Scoot being like how he was pre-draft and being comfortable and just being a superstar player like he was. So I think we'll move on. I think topic number two is Shaden Sharp. I have concerns about Shaden. I think there's a lot of things you love about Shaden. Easily, I mean, he has generational talent. I mean, I'm not to put that word like lightly, but he does. Like if you see him, he has insane abilities is just to do anything. I mean, a 45 plus inch vert. I mean, he can do it all. He can score. He's a real smooth scorer. He can get to the rim whenever he wants, you know. But my main concern with Shaden is his health. And back to back years, he's had pretty significant injuries. I mean, last year he missed 50 games. That's essentially a whole season. And you know, he gets hurt again this summer. Has the same exact injury as he had in the summer league. And I'm just going to read off some of the injuries that Shaden's had so far. He had in the first minute of his first summer league game, he had a small torn labrum in his left shoulder, and he was out. I think like 6 weeks. He didn't miss. He only missed 2 games his rookie year. But I commented to someone earlier today is I'm not necessarily concerned about his durability as a player with like his rookie usage because his rookie usage he was mainly just a slasher. And I mean, I want to see him have a lot of usage and see if he can stay sustainable with health. And I'll name a couple more injuries that he's had. Then we can go with you, Cal. But I mean, his next injury was a thumb fracture his rookie year. He played through that, but still, you know, it's another injury. And then, you know, the one last year that put him out majority of the season was a abdominal strain that happened earlier in the year. And then it came to a tear, and he had to get surgery, like Damian Lillard had, I think, in 2021. I think. And that ended his season. And then, you know, he had in pre camp this year, he had a small torn label on his left shoulder. So, I mean, my overall thing with Shaden is can he be a sustainable, healthy player? And what's your thoughts on Shaden this year, Cal?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously you don't like to see the continuous like injuries, but I think a lot of them have been more fluky rather than like he's in an injury prone type player. Like it seems like kind of some random things, a shoulder issue maybe didn't heal all the way. So I don't think there's like long-term issues with him being like he's not going to be around healthy. I think it's more frustrating that he's not getting to gel with the young guys. Like he's part of the young core, and now we're seeing him out of another training camp. He's not going to start obviously the season. And I think he was projected probably to be in the starting lineup. So it's another 6 weeks off of him not playing with the normal rotation. So I think it just kind of messes with his long term, how he's going to progress. But I still think, as him as a player, I think he's one of the higher upside players on the entire team just because of kind of what you said, his ability to slash and shoot. So I still think he has, can reach all levels. I don't think the injuries are going to stop him from doing that.
Yeah, so no, I'm not trying to say like not saying you're saying that, but you know, overall, I'm just saying it is a concern with them. You know, like you said, they are kind of just fluky stuff. You know, a torn labrum in your shoulder is something you know just comes like from just shooting the ball. Like that's something that simply could happen, or just a small contact play. And so I do think Shaden will get back to healthy, and I do, like I said, my number one thing I want to see from Shaden is him having a lot of usage and staying healthy because you know like I said his rookie year he was mainly just a slasher and someone that was kind of like a putback guy and he didn't have the ball in his hands too much, and now he has the opportunity to have the ball in his hands a lot, and I want to see him stay healthy, and I really hope he does because he does, like I said, have generational talent in my opinion. He can be a superstar for this team. He is a uber talented dude, and it's almost ridiculous how talented that guy is. And I mean, he's only what, like 21? I
Yeah,
20?
super young still.
20.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not specific age, but I mean, he's right there. I mean, so I hope the best for Shaden. He's another one of those dudes that is dependent on if Portland's going to come back to being a playoff team in the next couple of years. And I really hope he does stay healthy. And so we'll move on to the next one. And this is what I was talking about earlier in the kind of the intro is Scoot Henderson. He's a difficult player to talk about. I'll get your opinions first on it. I mean, what do you feel about Scoot? What do you think is like your expectation out of him this year, and what do you want to see from him?
Yeah, so I think last year, I think most fans can say they were probably disappointed with how he played last year. But yeah, I think we got to remember that he didn't play in college. So the only year he played was a G League, which isn't the best competition. Like it's different competition, but it's not the same structure as playing college. So I think it's kind of you get a pass, but it's not, you didn't love to see it. But some of the areas I want to see him improve on for this year is I think he's very good at getting to the basket, but he needs to make better decisions of when it's time to get to the basket and create for others, kick it out, and when it's time to attack the basket. I think too many times last year he would just kind of drive full steam ahead and just be like, I'm gonna get to the rim and just kind of throw it up, and that's when the bad decisions happen, or he wouldn't have a plan to know where he was gonna pass it. So I want kind of him to work on that type of area. And then I still think long term, like I think he's the future of the Blazers. I think him and Shade in that backcourt, I still feel very strongly about. So I still, last year didn't sway me from thinking that he can be the franchise point guard for the Blazers.
Well said. I have like a lot of people do have concerns about him. I mean, I think it's concerning that he's a really inefficient player so far. I mean, I love Scoot though. I think he has the ability to be one of the best playmakers in the league. I mean, he does. His turnovers needs to shorten it up, but that comes with having a 19, 20-year-old point guard. And the one thing I'll give Scoot, and I will preach that for a while, is that point guard is the hardest position in the NBA to learn, especially for someone who is coming onto the team with a lot of lack of leadership. And I'm not saying people like Jeremy Grant are like not leaders and stuff, but people kind of compare him to like Dame coming to the league. Dame was 22 coming to the league, played 4 years of college, and then came onto a vet team. I mean, like not maybe not the first year, but his second year there was a lot of vets. He had Rolo, he had LaMarcus Aldridge, he had Wesley Matthews, he had Mo Williams. I mean, who Dame credits a lot for who like how he was as a player was because of Mo Williams. And it the whole thing with Scoot is he is coming onto a team, a bottom five roster. I mean, maybe not, but a bottom five team, and he's 19, 20 years old, and that's a really hard thing to adjust to. And especially like you said, the G League, I do wish he was a little more, developed as he was kind of presented to us. Um, and I don't really feel like Portland's marketing team did the best last summer talking about Scoot. I mean, because a lot of them were kind of stating he was, playing already and he could be someone that would win them games now. And that turned out not to be the most true. And so, which is fine. But, overall, I think Scoot will be fine. And if he's not a superstar generational player, that's okay. But your Portland's got to live with that decision they made to get us where we're at now. But for me, for Scoot, I just want to see him show that he can at least be an all-star guy. It doesn't have to be some superstar, but if he can be an all-star guy and someone like Shaden can be that superstar for Portland, or even, Klingon could honestly be a superstar for Portland. Maybe not offensively, but a defensive superstar for sure. And that's someone we're going to talk about here soon. But my first initial reactions to Scoot's preseason was, game one was rough. I mean, it looked like Scoot, it looked like kind of Scoot last year. Honestly, it just looked and then game two, he just comes out and plays differently. I think the number one thing with Scoot is, if he takes away the shot chucking and, kind of the threes, I think his efficiency would go a way up. And for me, it's just his efficiency and his lack of making right plays. And so I think with the whole thing with Scoot is he'll be okay. He's 19, 20 years old. Point guard's the hardest position in the NBA to learn. And there's a lot to be yet to be determined with him too. We're year two into this version of the rebuild. So I mean, there's a lot to learn about Scoot as well. So I think
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like it could take more time than we expected. We thought he was gonna be right away. Might just take a couple more years, and that's okay. But I think the thing that keeps me like having faith in him is he seems like from all accounts like a super hard worker. So if it's not gonna work, it's not gonna be because of lack of effort. Like he wasn't putting the time in. Like he's in the gym all the time, work on his jump shot. So he's putting the work that if he has it in him, we'll see it.
Oh no, no doubt, no doubt. I don't like discredit that at all. I think Scoot's a really, really hard worker. I like you said, I always see him in the gym. I think his shot did improve a lot throughout the year last year too. I mean, at first it was abysmal and it really steadily went through. So I really do think Scoot will be fine in the long run. But yeah, like you said, as a Blazer fan, you were kind of promised he's a day one ready player now. And yeah, he's not. And something I'll ask you about Scoot is do you think he should be starting, or do you think Portland should kind of ease him into that process? Because
Yeah, I've kind of gone back and forth because I think I like him with, the starting unit just because it's more talented players with him. But I kind of think for his development, I'd rather him come off the bench and have the ball in his hand way more, leading the second unit, just because I think he is a true point guard, kind of like you said, and his best ability is the playmaking. So I think to use him best and develop him for like long term We need to see him with the second unit, running the show, pick and rolls go through him, and then kind of let the first unit do their thing, like separate from him.
No, I agree, and I think this is going to tie into our next topic as well. Is a lot of people have kind of wanted to rush Anthony Simons out of town because of Scoot, and I think it's and like feeling like Scoot should be starting, and my thing is this: why rush Scoot into that role? Because Scoot didn't show last year he was ready. So far, that's yet to be determined. I mean, preseason's preseason. He had a kind of iffy preseason, up and down. Why rush him into that role? I don't think he's necessarily ready to be a full time starter in the NBA, and that's okay. I mean, Portland is not in a position where they need him to be a winner right now. We're still kind of actively tanking, and it might get ugly tanking this year if it's we're trying to go for Cooper Flag. So that's all dependent. But this ties into what we're going to talk about now is what does Portland do with Anthony Simons? You can start with that. Like, what do you feel? Do you think he's someone that can be here more long term, or what's your thoughts on what they should do with Anthony?
Yeah, from like the Blazers perspective, I wouldn't be in a hurry to trade him. Like I know there's a lot of trades that are floated. Like I don't think we should be out there like trying to trade him. If the right trade comes along, like someone's gets desperate on the trade deadline, they're going to offer a great package that helps us long term. Maybe we consider it. But I mean, every game that he's been healthy, I know he's been hurt and we kind of shut him down, but he's putting up over 20 a game, super efficient, high volume, 3-point shooter. Like that's what you want in today's NBA. So I don't know. And he's still super young. Why would we be looking to get rid of him? And he still
Yeah,
fits with the timeline of our core. So I don't think that it's someone that we want to be, actively trying to trade. But if the right one comes along, then we should, keep our options open.
I agree. I think I'm a huge Anthony guy. If people have paid attention to my page, I'm a huge Anthony guy. He is someone that I have watched since he was 18 years old when we drafted him in 2018. I have seen him learn behind Dame and CJ. I've seen him wait his turn, and I think he deserves to be that guy on this team right now. And I do feel bad for Anthony because selfishly I want him to stay in Portland, but he at the end of the day he is such a great scorer, and I think he could be a suit like a potential, maybe superstar, but an all-star. I think he easily could be an all-star. On a winning team, I think he could be an all-star with multiple options. A lot of people hate on Anthony, and I get part of it, but I've proved a lot with him is that he's an improving defender. He has a lot of stats where it shows that he's a really bad defender, but at the end of the day, a lot of those are team metrics too. Portland, has been bottom three in defense for years now. And the number one thing with Anthony keeping Anthony too is his gravity. I think he was top five in the NBA last year in gravity and in gravity. So and me, if that's people don't know necessarily what that means is he attracts people, he attracts defenders, just like Dame did. Dame attracted defenders. Dame is a generational gravity player. He's along those not maybe as he's along those lines with like Steph Curry and along the not saying Anthony is, but Anthony has so much attention to the defense that it opens up the game so much for this offense. And this offense it was quite awful last year. They were dead last in 3-point percentage. And that's a big problem. And number one thing for me is, well, we need to get Anthony out of town. If Scoot wants to be successful in his early career, he needs to have shooters next to him. And it doesn't matter necessarily defense, but Scoot needs to have shooters next to him so he can have open lanes. Teams are teams already last year were just stacking the paint against us the whole entire game. And just forcing us to shoot because we're dead last in 3-point percentage. Why would you not? And so I think Anthony is that guy that, gives them a huge boost offensively. And I think he's someone that would help, Shaden, Anthony, I mean, not Shaden, Anthony, Shaden, Scoot, Klingon, everyone on this team, even Denny, who we're going to talk about here too, is, I think Anthony is a huge, huge key to this team just overall. And he can help develop a lot of people just with his gravity. So
I think it would be different too if it was like the kind of what we were saying with Scoot. If Scoot was ready to take over the full point guard role, it'd be kind of different. Then it'd make more sense. But like we said, just last topic, Scoot's not ready for that. So there's not a huge rush to be like, we got to get Anthony out of here. He's stopping Scoot from becoming one of the best point guards in the NBA. There's time to let both, play their role and see what happens.
And Scoot can play 30 minutes a game. I mean, he still can play. He did it last year. I mean,
Yeah.
Anthony got hurt. I think he tore his thumb, had surgery, and was out the first 4 to 6 weeks last year. I think that was like game one of the year too, which is just blazer luck. But anyways, I mean, Scoot is gonna finish games. He's gonna play. There's gonna be games where Scoot is playing really well, and he's gonna finish the game out. That's gonna happen a lot. And then I think the one thing I do really admire with Chauncey is he's not scared to yank Scoot out when Scoot's playing bad. And that's one thing that, Scoot's gonna have to learn is, if you're gonna play bad, you're not gonna, you're gonna play, you can play through some of your badness, but Chauncey will yank him, and Chauncey will yank anyone if they're playing bad, essentially. I mean, and that's one thing I do like about Chauncey, and we'll talk about Chauncey too, but I think the next thing we're gonna talk about is that man, Donovan Clingan, who, oh my gosh, just watching him in the preseason, how can you not be excited as a Blazer fan? I mean, I honestly pre-draft, I wasn't a clean guy. I felt like Portland. I mean, they needed the defense, but personally, I was a Dalton Connect guy, and I tweeted that. I really wanted Dalton Connect at 7. Portland worked him out. I thought he was a shooter, scorer that Portland desperately needs and still kind of needs. But kudos to the front office. I think the clean pick was spot on. He is going to be a generational defensive player, and I know I'm throwing that word out a lot so far, but he is. Oh my gosh, he is a special player. What's your thoughts on Clingan? What did you feel about his preseason, games? He had the 14 points, 22 rebounds, 4 blocks, 4 assists. I mean, what was your thoughts on the Clingan this preseason?
Yeah, I mean, starting with the draft, like I thought there was a chance, and it was rumored that, he could go as early as 1. So to get that kind of value at 7, I think was, a home run for the front office. But also, like, it wasn't a great draft to begin with. So taking a center that I think he has one of the highest floors of anyone in that draft, like, I think that was a very fine pick at that spot. Preseason, I thought, he started off just making a bunch of defensive plays, rebound. You could see it. That last game is what really like got me excited about the future. He was everywhere. I think it's crazy how big he seems compared to other team centers. Like he's a massive human,
He made Walker
blocking
Kessler
shots.
look small. I mean,
It's crazy. Yeah. I think he had 4 or 5 blocks. He's grabbing every rebound. So I think that just kind of shows what he could be long term when he gets those type of minutes. He probably won't get, those type of minutes early in the season, but there's a lot to, for him to become later in the season.
yeah, no, I mean the thing with Klingon too, I mean, is like, there's no rush to slot him into the starting spot either. I mean, Aiton, you know, hate or love Aiton, he was a different player from like January 15th and beyond last year. He looked like an all-star center. He looked like the center that was getting paid 30 mil a year. And, Aiton has, fully embraced Portland since coming here. I think I saw a Blazers, like, I think it was like their media day video they put out. It was like 5 minutes of just DeAndre just messing around, having a great time. And I love DA. I mean, I wasn't, it's funny enough as I wasn't a DA guy either. I think he was a really lazy, kind of selfish player for the Suns, but I do think it was kind of comical how much Sun fans like kind of put their lack of success on Aiton too. So I mean, like they scapegoated him a lot last year. I mean, the year prior when he was on there, and I think Aiton is in for a big year himself this year too. And where this kind of ties with Kling is, Kling is going to be a great plug and play player for Portland this year. If Aiton has any injury issues, Klingon can start easily. He can, but there's no rush to put him in that role. Klingon's never played more than 30 minutes a game, and especially in the NBA, that's the 30 minutes of the game is a lot of tiring on a body too, especially for a big 7'3", 280. He's a big guy, and especially there's no reason to start him. He falls in line with Scoot too. There's no rush to start him. He is young. He is really well coached, and I'm just really excited about this Klingon pick. I think he's going to be a great defender for us for a long, long time. And number one, I'm just excited to see someone stand in the paint for Portland, and people will be scared to go up on him. Rudy Gobert like really a lot,
Yeah,
and
Wemby too. You see the guys drive and they just like don't even do a shot, just turn around and dribble back out.
that's defense in itself. That's something that very few people have in this league, and that is going to be something really, really valuable for Portland. I think Clingan can anchor a lot of top 10 defenses in his career for this team, and that's something we've desperately needed for a long, long time. We haven't had a shot blocker like Clingan. I can't even remember. I mean, maybe Marcus Camby, and he wasn't even in the same realm. So, you know, there's a lot to be excited about with Clingan. He showed a lot of that. He looked like a vet, and I'm really excited about it.
Well,
When
and
will
now we have really good center depth too with Robert Williams coming back, like three guys that can play real NBA minutes.
Yeah, even
Um,
do up too. I mean, do up.
yeah,
He
yeah,
adds
he
a
was good
different
last year.
he adds a different element. I mean, he's a shooter, kind of scorer type of guy. But I mean, he's a solid fourth center. Um, I really for speak. We'll speak about Rob quickly, but I really do hope Rob can get healthy and just show something. He's a great guy. He's embraced Portland. I've heard a lot about him, being that kind of leader so far for Portland and kind of taking guys in, and he's embraced it being here as well. So I really do hope Rob gets healthy and he shows something. I mean, not saying he might be a Blazer forever, but I think for his sake, I hope he shows something and so he can play more years, because if he continues to get hurt, I really don't know how long he has in this league. And the next thing we're going to talk about is Denny Avdija, if I pronounce that right. um Anyways, I mean, I've tweeted this before. I think that Denny trade on draft day for Portland was Cronin's best move he's made since being a GM here. What's your thoughts on Denny? Did you know anything kind of prior to him coming here, and what's your expectations for him?
Yeah, just not didn't watch too much of him, but I know he was having, a career year last year, so exciting to get a player like coming off his best year. I loved the trade. I thought, a couple of things with it. We cashed in a little bit on Brogdon, which getting a low value from him is always good with someone that didn't fit our timeline. Trade a first round pick that was the end of the first round, which, like I said earlier, was a bad draft. So trading the 14th pick in the first round is not a big deal. It's a future 2029 first round pick, which we already have two other first that year, Milwaukee and Boston. And I think
Really
it's like the
heavily
second
protected
most
too.
favorable.
So
Yeah, second most favorable or something. So we're not giving up a lot in that pick too. So it really was not too much risk on our end and a lot of upside getting a young player that just came off his best year in the NBA.
yeah, no, I mean for Denny, I think he and Tumani give Portland their best perimeter tandem they've had since Wesley Matthews and Nick Batum. I think they're going to lock a lot of people up this year. Denny is a really, really underrated player. He's on an insane contract too. Like I think it's like 12 mil a year for like 4 more years after this.
It decreases too. Like the
Decreases
fourth year is the
too.
cheapest of the yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like, oh my gosh. Like, I mean, kudos to Cronin for that move. I mean, it was something, it was blindside move. I had a blindside move. I had no expectation of a draft day trade happening. I thought Portland was going to select at 14. We're going to get two young guys and kind of continue that young route. But, Denny was a heck of a pull. I mean, I'm not mad about the price at all. Some people have said Portland overpaid for him. I mean, this dude's 23 years old. He is so young. He had a career year last year, shot 37% from three. I mean, he is going to be a stud. And even in the early preseason, you can see how much of a playmaker he's going to be. Portland has not had a lot of playmaking wings, and Portland's had a lot of, kind of one centered role wings where it's like, they're either good at defense, not a good shooter, or either a shooter, not good at defense. And that's how the wing situation's been for a long time. And Denny brings, he's a kind of almost a five-tool player. He can do it all. He can put the ball, he can dribble the ball up, he can score, he can play defense, he can distribute. I'm really excited for Denny too. I think he's going to be great for this team. He's going to be a long-term starter at the 3-4, depending on how long Jeremy Grant is a Blazer. And Denny is going to be he's going to be a great player this year. I hope him and Tumani really flourish together. I think they're our future 3 and 4 at this on this team, and I'm really, really excited for him. So
I mean, I think you could see it in the preseason, even when I don't think he shot great, but plus minus double digits, I think two of the three games, like kind of said, you gravity, like his playmaking gravity is there where he's making plays even when he's not shooting well. Like even if they're not respecting his outside shot, like he's still making plays and that outside shot will come along. So really impressed with his preseason.
Oh yeah, his IQ is insane. I mean, he made a couple of plays. He made a play yesterday, like not late yesterday, but last week. I forget who they're playing, but he like had the ball turned around and completely just did a 360 and passed it to Klingon into paint, and it was just a wide open layup. I'm like, okay, we have not had a wing like that that could do that. So, um, there's a lot to be excited about individual player wise on this Portland roster. I mean, I tweeted out. I mean, that Utah game just really had me hyped for a lot of players. Individual success. I mean, contract year. Chauncey is coming out for blood. Apparently, he's gonna look like a real coach. And that's a different topic we'll probably discuss in the later pod. But you know, Chauncey, he's a guy he's on a contract year. Does Portland want to bring him back next year? I think Chauncey has something that he needs to prove something if he wants to be a coach here long term. Because, so far he's, not proved to be that defensive guru we've kind of looked for. The offense is, I do think Portland should bring in an offensive kind of like brilliant mind because, I personally just don't really like Chauncey's offense, but I think he's coming out for blood this year. Um, and I think this Portland roster is going to surprise some things. I don't know if they're going to win a lot of games, but I think individuals are going to surprise a lot of people. And the last I'll get into before we discuss some questions from some fans is what's your expectations for Wednesday against Golden State? Do you think Portland has a chance of winning that game? Do you think Portland? What's your expectations? What do you feel like Portland should play like? And yeah, and I'll go after you.
Yeah, I mean, I think they definitely have a chance to win just because first game, new look Warriors, no Klay Thompson, so that'll kind of be an adjustment on their end. But I think, with Anthony being fully back, I think, like you said, I think Aiden's in for a big year. So I'm kind of excited to see how that whole unit kind of looks together. And going back to like the Jazz preseason game, that was the best defense I think I've seen maybe in the Chauncey era. So seeing if we can build off that and kind of like maybe we're gonna be a top 5 to 10 defensive team, and that's how we, are more competitive this year. I think that could be something to look for. So I think we can be definitely can be competitive on Wednesday.
Yeah, no, I think it's gonna be a good game. I don't expect a blowout. I think it's opening day at Moda. I think Portland hasn't had an opening day game, and no, I think they did like 2 years ago against the Kings and they lost, which was hilarious.
I think we
But
start with the Kings every year.
yeah, no, it's been the Kings every single year. But I'm going to that game. I'm really excited to see it. I'm hyped, and it's always those early season hype that you get. But I think Portland will have a good game. I think DeAndre is going to have a really good game. I don't feel like anyone on Golden State can necessarily guard him unless they put Draymond on him. But I don't see them doing that. I think they'll put Draymond on Jeremy. But we'll see. I mean, yeah, like you said, I think Golden State's got a lot to figure out themselves. The whole Kaminga situation, him not getting paid, maybe he's not happy. There's a lot of things with Golden State. There's a lot of questions with them this year. There's no Klay Thompson, Steph Curry's, I think 30, turning 36. He's getting up there, which is crazy. So I think it's gonna be a really competitive game. I could see Portland winning it. But if they don't, like you said, we don't really have that many expectations. If they don't win it, who cares, honestly? So to wrap up the pod, we're gonna go through some questions and just answer them, and then we'll wrap this up. And it's been a good first episode, getting some chemistry with my boy Cal here, and I'm looking forward to a full season. We're gonna be posting every Monday, Tuesday, typically, depending on both our schedules. We'll get one of them out each week, and then we'll just kind of go from there. And I'm looking really forward to it as well. So the first question comes from Truss. We'll just call him Truss. We had one of the worst offenses I can recall last season, worst assist percentage per shots made. What are steps in the right direction with the same coach who prefers nothing but half court ISO spamming offense? And this draws back to what we were just talking about. I think the biggest thing is Scoot Henderson and people like Denny and Ant and their ability to play make. They've got to be playmakers, and we've got to make open shots. I think Portland was the worst shooting, like they were the worst 3-point percentage team in the NBA last year, and open shots as well. They just did not hit shots, and that hurt. And you can't win games if you can't score the ball. And so, what's your thoughts? Do you feel to that
Yeah,
question?
kind of similar to you. The three main things I said was Scoot taking the next step. will definitely help just because of he was shot low percentage turnovers. So just him making better decisions will help the offensive flow. Anthony being back for a full season just because of his gravity, like that can only help an offense that struggles to shoot. And then I think Denny's on-ball responsibilities giving teams different look because last year it was just Scoot basically running pick and roll for 75% of the game. Having Denny and Anthony and when Shane comes back, just different things we can show. I think that will help increase the offense.
Yeah. So that's a great question though. I mean, not a lot of people are going to ask people questions like that. The next question is going to be by Blazers Argentino. With Denny, Tumani, Jabari, Chris, and even Roops, do you think we should trade Jeremy this season? 120% we should trade Jeremy. And that's not to say Jeremy's not a fine player, but he is one dude that doesn't fit this timeline and roster. He was someone we brought in to, necessarily help Dame. And I'm not saying Jeremy can't be that, but I personally don't want to see Jeremy ISO out the entire shot clock and just kill the offense with his, lack of movement. Now, where I love Jeremy is when he's off ball and he is, like spotting up and people are creating for him. He can create for himself. No, there's no doubt. But it's not the prettiest creating for yourself out there. And I think Jeremy should be traded because number one, I want Tumani to start too. And Tumani wants, unless he's going to start at the two, which he possibly could until Shaden gets back. Um, I want Tumani to be the long term starting three on this team, and I think Denny could be a four. Denny's 6'8". They're both 6'8". Tumani and him, they could both flip flop, and that's kind of where the league has gone. Is having a 3-4 be like kind of that 6'8", 6'10" range. So yeah, no, I think Jeremy should be traded. The problem with Jeremy is contract matching and having the right team have the ability to make that trade and for him to make sense for them. And what's your thoughts on trading Jeremy? Do you feel that Portland should? And yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I could not feel stronger about them needing to trade Jeremy. I think kind of what you said doesn't match the timeline. Also doesn't match what we want to do on offense at all. Like if you just watch a couple preseason games, but even all last year too, like the ball can be moving, a couple guys touch it, goes to Jeremy, it's stop, it's let me do a mid-range jumper and let me shoot a three, like kind of kills the flow of the offense. And also, like you said, the contract, like we gave him a big contract that if we can get out of, I think it just opens up flexibility for us long term. Um, so I think it could be a situation where we take a guy back on, a 1 or 2 year deal at a similar per year contract, eat that for 1 or 2 years, and then save the 2 or 3 years on the back end. That could be a fit that works.
yeah, no, like I said, I mean, I think Jeremy should be traded. I don't see a role for him long term here. And yeah, so I think the next question we're gonna go with is my boy Kevin. I'm in a lot of group chats with this guy. His username's KY_PDX. He's a great dude. He said, what would have to happen for Klingon to make a first team all rookie team? Honestly, looking at it, I think if Klingon, I don't know about first team. First team might have to be starter wise. Um, but I think Klingon is going to be so good in the short amount of times he's in that he could just make a rookie team based off that. His per 36 stats are going to be insane. And if you know what per 36 is, it's just an estimate of what their stats would be if they played, obviously 36 minutes. So or above. So I think Klingon is gonna shoot through the roof in his short amount of minutes he's gonna have. And you can go answer as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could have a great year. I just don't see the path to it with how many minutes I think Aiton's going to get, at least early on. I think he would have to have like a crazy second half of the year if we were in kind of in tanking mode and they were just giving him a bunch of minutes. But I could see like, a second team if, not a good class and he's making a huge impact, like a high block rate. He's averaging like 2 or 3 blocks off the bench. Like I could see that type of role, but I think first team might be kind of tough.
Yeah, no. So yeah, first team, like I said, would have to be starter wise. I don't. Yeah, that's just a tough thing for him to do necessarily. Um, yeah. So we'll move on to the next one. This one's from we have. I'll go through like three more, then we can end it. This one's from Diane. what is your ideal end result for this team? What would make a good season versus a bad one? I think a bad season would, necessarily be winning games that Portland like kind of, not necessarily winning games, but if Portland's going to go tank for someone like Cooper Flag or um shoot, I forget Ace Bailey.
Bruce Bailey, yep. Mhm.
Yeah, if they're gonna go for that, go for them. But I don't want to see necessarily any wins that are gonna put Portland in a position where they can't do that. But if Portland's gonna be a team where they kind of want to make a shot at a play-in somehow with how insanely deep the West is this year, if they want to try to do that team, be a competitive team. Pick a path. Don't stay in that middle ground. I feel like that's kind of how we got, and that's kind of why we were seventh in the draft last year. I think I want Portland to pick a path, and if they're gonna pick it, stick with it
Yeah, I think my ideal season is kind of like your first answer, like let's just be as bad as possible, like not, individual stuff, but I think we're not going to make the playoffs in my opinion, so why even mess with that? Like let's get a top three lottery chance. Let's give ourselves the best chance of getting Flagger Bailey, who could be, this is your best player for the next 10 years type player. Give ourselves the best chance at that. And then also for the like an ideal season, see a huge jump from Scoot and Shaden, I think, are the two guys that I want to see the biggest jump for.
for sure, for sure. And that's a great question too. We've kind of discussed that in the pod as well, but the next question is by the flock is hot. I'm guessing you're a Duck fan, which is rank the following by most likely to be moved by trade deadline and why. Grant, Simons, Aiton. I would say switch Simons and Aiton, and Grant's number one. Yeah, I don't. There's not really more to say to that. I think Grant has to be their priority trade deadline. They're gonna like should go for is trading Grant, and then Aiton's kind of just like a wild card. I think that's his contract's a little harder to move than Jeremy's. They're about the same price, but I just don't see a lot of teams that feel like they want to invest 34 million into Aiton. And then that's not saying anything bad about him because I think Aiton really did show something. But I think you switch Grant. I think Grant's number one, and you could go Aiton and then Simons. Yeah,
Yeah, I went Grant number one for sure because of kind of the reasons we said. I did Simon second just because I think there's going to be more value in him around the league. Like teams would be more interested in possibly getting him. I'm
yeah,
not sure what Aiden would have to do for teams to be super interested given that contract. And when the Suns were looking to ship him, like there wasn't a huge interest on the league. So I'm not sure that that same level of interest would be there as there would be for like Anthony.
yeah. That's a good answer. I think that's if yeah, that makes sense. Like I said, and I don't see a lot of teams wanting to invest 34 million into him. Um, and so yeah, well, and I think the last question we'll go with is it's something I've wanted to talk about on the pod. We kind of had some pre questions we talked about earlier. Is Tumani Kamara? And this is from my boy AJ. Do you think Kamara could ever become a Herb Jones like impact player? What are your expectations for him year two? Um, I think my expectations are through the not necessarily expectations, but I think through the roof through Tumani. I think the Phoenix Suns every single day for involving him in that Aiton trade. What a pull from Cronin in that sense. Tumani showed it from day one. He is going to be a bulldog. He's going to be someone that's going to pick someone up 90 feet, the whole floor. And, you just love to have those players on your team. He is someone that is going to be an uber good defender for his entire career. And he's going to be an improving shot maker. And I even said it I think he dropped like 19, like game one of preseason. And I think like 9 rebounds and he had like 2 steals. I mean, he just is, he's going to be a great player. What's your expectation, Tumani? I'll kind of go off that and we can get out of here, man.
Yeah, I think, in terms of Herb, I think he can match that level of defense almost right away. I think just because of, like you said, picking up full court, he was that good his rookie year, so you can only expect him to get better as he goes on defensively. I think the next step to get on that same level is, I think Herb was around, 40% from three last year, whereas that was a little bit of an area where Tumani needs to improve. So that'd be the next jump in terms of getting to that level is, can he be a consistent, corner three shooter, 40% defense isn't leaving him? If he gets to that level, then we're talking like anything's possible for him.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the sky. the sky's the limit for Tumani. His shot is improving, and if he can be a 36% sub 3 point per shooter or better, he absolutely could be Herb Jones. Absolutely. I have utmost confidence in Tumani. I think he should be a starter. I think he should be a starter right now. And I would not be mad if Portland ended up starting on Wednesday Anthony, Tumani, Denny, Grant, and Aiton. I would not be mad at that lineup. Maybe they go with Scoot, but I do prefer Scoot to be on the bench as a 6 man, kind of leading the charge with the second unit. I think he plays better against second unit guys just overall. And I think Tumani could slot into that too until Shaden gets back eventually, and then we can go from there and maybe slide him back into the starting unit lineup when Grant gets back. Gets traded, hopefully. But we'll wrap it up from here. Thank you for coming on, Cal, and being the co-host. I mean, I've been looking for one for a long time, and I'm glad you're here. And we got a committed co-host, and we'll be, like I said, posting every single Monday or Tuesday. And it's gonna be a fun season, just talking about individuals, and I hope you guys tune in. My Twitter is at 503 Blazer fans. Obviously, I'll be posting on here. Cal, what's your Twitter?
Yeah, Twitter's at Cal Kingella.
Okay, awesome. And I'll tag him in the link as well when I post it. And then we'll be doing kind of a mailbag style questions. Like I'll tweet out previous to the posting the pod, and get questions from you guys. I appreciate all the questions. There were some questions we didn't get to, but it's been a solid hour recording, and I'm looking forward to it. I'll see some of you guys on Wednesday, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Cal.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, man. That was